Halo Infinite Weapon Tier List. I wanted to do a full breakdown of what we've learned and played from the multiplayer before the campaign launched, and I thought, why not just upload it when it launches? Give new people a good look at what they're dealing with, you know? So then, here's how we're doing this, and if you don't care about the methodology, you can just skip to the timestamp on screen or to any of the given weapons in the description. The dominant factor in deciding where something goes on the tier list is going to be its TTK, or time to kill, which, for the sake of consistency, is going to be measured in frame data. All footage was played and captured at a hard-locked 60 frames per second. I can plug it into Adobe Premiere and then count each animation frame by frame. How a TTK is calculated is based on the number of frames between the start of the firing animation and the start of the kill-confirmed hit marker animation. Beyond that, we'll consider ease of use, versatility, and any sort of unique utilities that a given weapon might have as an edge over others. So, let's kick things off, starting with the human weapons. The tried and true classic default, the Assault Rifle. The Assault Rifle has a time to kill of 88 frames under normal circumstances, and it kills in 26 rounds to the body, or 18 to the head. Meaning that you can theoretically deal more damage to the head and kill faster, but you're also likely going to be missing bullets because it really just isn't that accurate when you go for max fire rate. Tapping the trigger is going to help you fire shots accurately, but it's also going to kill slower. It's good for suppression and trash damage though, even if you aren't managing to kill it. And in the absence of a better gun, it's always going to be a reliable friend you can pick up. The Assault Rifle has a decent time to kill and it's really easy to use, but it's more than likely you aren't going to get that TTK because you're also going to probably be missing shots. The Assault Rifle is going to lose to most other things in its own operating range. Either it's going to get outranged by stuff like the BR, or even in its ideal close range, it's going to end up losing to the Bulldog or the Heatwave, so solid C tier though. Now for the professional default, the Battle Rifle. The BR has an optimal time to kill of 93 frames, which is honestly lower than I expected because it doesn't feel like it. It 4 bangs to the head or 6 shots to the body, 12 or 16 rounds respectively. It's a precision weapon, meaning that it'll one-tap an unshielded enemy to the head. In the case of headshots, what usually happens is that you take 3 shots plus 2 bullets to break the shield, and the very last round of the 4th shot is going to kill with a headshot. On the other hand, only a single round of the 6th burst is needed to kill if all of them are landed to the body. This rifle is useful at basically all ranges, from close mid to mid long. However, it is defined as a scoped weapon, meaning that you're going to get descoped if you zoom in and get shot back. Despite the relatively low time to kill and being a burst fire weapon, the BR is ridiculously consistent in terms of recoil. So, while other guns may ideally kill faster, you're more likely to land your shots with the BR and beat them out anyway. The BR has an okay time to kill, but it's also really easy to use, super accurate, and super consistent at almost all ranges. Plus, being a precision weapon is always good. It's the pro standard for a reason, B tier. The new full auto DMR replacement, the Commando. It's got an optimal time to kill of only 64 frames. That's only 8 rounds fired in total. It's a precision weapon, so it also one-bangs unshielded heads, and like I said, it's full auto. And despite being a full auto weapon, it's actually more reliable at landing pot-shot trash damage at long range than the BR, as long as you can use it semi-auto and pace out your shots. However, the Commando kicks like a mule later in the mag at full auto, and the accuracy boom gets pretty nasty. It's not uncommon to completely whiff all of your finishing headshots if you just hold the trigger down. Meaning while the Commando has a sizable kill lead on the BR will still usually beat out the Commando in their shared ranges unless you're really good at landing your shots well. The Commando has a good time to kill, but it's really hard to use well to get that result. It's also really easy to use badly, like just a longer range version of the Assault Rifle without enough bullets. But that makes it a high skill floor, high ceiling type of gun, where it's hard to use, but it's also really rewarding once you get good with it. That said though, it's probably going to end up losing to the BR provided that the BR player is a decent shot, so I'm going to put it in B tier just below the BR. The pistol the Halo 2 Magnum tried and failed to be the Sidekick. With an optimal time to kill of 80 frames, it actually kills faster than the Assault Rifle that you usually get spawned in with. That's because, again, it's a precision weapon, and it kills with 7 rounds to the head or 9 to the body. Despite also being a close-range weapon, it does have a decent zoom-in, meaning that you can take reliable shots at mid-range. You can even pot-shot at mid-long to long-range onward if you're completely nuts. The Sidekick has a decent time to kill, which is actually faster than the Assault Rifle, just barely, and it's fairly easy to use, even though it's harder to use than the Assault Rifle because, you know, you have to actually aim with it, and it works at longer ranges. Plus, precision weapon, so also good. but under almost any circumstances, it's just strictly going to lose to any other precision weapon. So, C tier, just above the assault rifle. The fair and balanced version of the shotgun, the Bulldog, isn't the Halo shotgun. Because the Halo shotgun is a ranged insta-kill in close quarters, and the Bulldog actually makes sense. But that doesn't mean that you can't use it like the shotgun. Let me explain. The Bulldog has an optimal time to kill of only 36 frames, which is barely half a second. It'll two-shot opponents at close range as long as you land the whole spread. Headshots don't make a difference. It also hits a good bit further away than any other Halo shotgun, but the damage fall-off means that the time to kill at that range constantly changes, so getting to the point, you can cancel the firing animation of a gun with a melee, and the Bulldog chunks hard enough with one shot to make an enemy die from a single melee. So if you fire and then melee in immediate succession, you can basically insta-kill like the shotguns of old, if only in melee range. Doing this means that its truly optimal time to kill is actually sub 10 frames, but again, that's optimal and not always practical or actually gonna happen. Also, as an aside, it's got a drum mag now, unlike other Halo shotguns again, meaning that you can't load individual rounds and keep firing as you go. You have to wait for the entire animation to play out now. The Bulldog has a great TTK, is easy to use, and it has the potential to nearly insta-kill with the melee combo. Plus, it has more range than other shotguns from other Halo games, so that trash damage spray can make people respect you and back off as a good get-off-me tool. Very solid A tier. Ah, the golden standard of FPS sniping, the S7 sniper rifle. One shot to the head or two to the body, as it should be. The sniper has an optimal time to kill of, yes, it's a hit scan weapon, meaning that there's no bullet travel time and it one-bangs heads at full health. Meaning the instant that you pull the trigger on someone's helmet, they're already in your kill feed. However, it has a suboptimal time to kill of 56 frames if you have to land both of the shots to the body. It can also be used as what I'll call generously a gambler's shotgun. Since it chunks you for half of your health if you hit the body, you can melee cancel insta-kill someone just like the Bulldog, but it's way less reliable, and sniping in Infinite is pretty heavily punished anyway, especially with the S7 specifically. You get descoped when shot, there's a ridiculously large, if even blinding, sniper glint for enemies to see, and the S7 sniper specifically gets stupidly inaccurate when attempting to no-scope with the weapon. So if you were a snapshot god in the other Halo games, kiss that goodbye. The new golden ticket for headshots without hard scoping in Infinite is quick scoping. Try lining up your headshot like you would for a no-scope, and then tap the ADS and trigger in quick succession, and your shot hopefully shouldn't miss. It also can kill a full health Warthog in 4 shots, or the full clip. The S7 Sniper kills instantly and even has a sub 1 second TTK, even with its suboptimal time to kill. And it kills vehicles. But hard scoping is super heavily punished in this game, and this sniper is essentially designed to make you want to hard scope, because they made snapshotting essentially completely useless. I've beaten out a lot of snipers with the BR or Commando just because they can't do anything at range when I'm plinking away at them and making them de-scope over and over and over again. They just can't play the game. I won't be so mean as to put it below those two rifles, but I think it's going to fall somewhere at the bottom of A tier. The grenade launcher's rocket science nerd cousin, the Hydra. It's, an interesting case, because it has both times that are solidly A tier, and it is also the literal slowest kill time in the game. Yeah, okay, so the Hydra kills human targets in 2 rockets if you direct impact, or 4 rockets if you use the alternate homing fire. But the homing missiles cut the Hydra's damage in half, and what's worse, the missiles travel slower. So, firing the regular mode has an optimal time to kill of only 41 frames. Although, given that it's a projectile weapon with travel time, it's almost always going to be longer than that. The homing rockets, on the other hand, have an optimal time to kill of a ridiculous 168 frames, which is the slowest of any weapon in the game pre-campaign release. The Hydra destroys a Warthog in 5 shots, or 9 homing rockets, or 1 less of each if you just want to doom it and let it explode on its own. It does have something else going for it, though. It individually loads rockets, meaning that you can stop reloading and start shooting whatever you've already loaded in between any given load instance of your character putting a rocket into the gun. The Hydra either has a great or the literal worst TTK in the game depending on how you use it, and more than likely, you're not going to be hitting the optimal time to kill because direct impacting with this thing is hard if you aren't in close range. And at that point, if you are in close range, you're just going to lose out to the Bulldog or the Heatwave and maybe even the Mangler or the Needler if you're unlucky. The homing feature makes it really easy to use, but it also completely neuters the gun, so what's even the point? Low B tier. The iconic double-barreled Devastator, the Spanker. An optimal time to kill of instantly, or a suboptimal time to kill of around 88 frames if you need to land both shots on one target. So, on the worst day, the rocket launcher is as good as the assault rifle on its best day. It one-shots any non-overshielded human target from full health within a given radius, and it two-shots the Warthog from full health. All of this hype to say that it makes me sad, because it's not the Spanker that I remember. It's got no tracking or homing feature against vehicles, flying or otherwise. The blast radius is lower than in other games, and the rockets are so slow. I've never been so underwhelmed by a Halo rocket launcher, and yes, I played Halo 5. I'd probably be even more so if it weren't for the nostalgia of having the classic launcher back after Halo 5 unceremoniously did away with it. It also has the second slowest reload speed of any weapon in the game at 180 frames. So, while in other games it'd be an easy S tier, it's just gonna sit at the top of A tier until they buff our precious Spanky Boy or change it so you can actually cancel the reload animation with firing the gun. The Spanker is easy to use, insta-kills in a radius, and blows up vehicles. But given that it just doesn't hit like it used to, it isn't the free S tier that it used to be either. Not to mention that it's the second slowest reload in the entire game. But, given that it's basically a free kill anytime that you get it, it's going to the top of A tier. Starting out the Covenant weapons, we have the Frankenstein's monster of the Storm Rifle, Carbine, and the Battle Rifle, the Pulse Carbine. It has an optimal time to kill of 87 frames, and it's actually a two-banger to the head. This thing absolutely shreds people, but that assumes that you're going to actually land all of your shots. See, it's a tracking-based projectile weapon, and it's got a bit of a problem that you're about to see a trend with here in a few seconds. The tracking isn't fast enough to outspeed good strafing laterally, nor is it fast enough to catch people crouch spamming vertically, meaning that you've got a gun with a slow, sequence-based projectile that's also easy to dodge. Yeah, well, it does have one good thing going for it. Since it does kill shields really well, you can use it to a similar role to the OG noob combo, either breaking or nearly breaking shields and then one-banging someone to the head. Also, a surprising positive, one full burst shreds enough that you can one-hit melee them. So if you're real bold, your optimal time to kill is actually just a few frames longer than it takes to fire a single burst. The Pulse Carbine has a TTK that's 1 frame better than the Assault Rifle, but it's not remotely as easy to use. Yeah, it shreds people, but unless they buff either the projectile speed or how hard it tracks people, it's just really not that practical, even with the utility of the melee combo. Low C tier. The grunt weapon of choice, the plasma pistol. And, oh boy, this guy's in a state, isn't he? It can't EMP anymore, which was kind of its whole thing, and then it somehow was made to absolutely melt people to the point where it does more damage to unarmored opponents than it does to shields, and it has a really high headshot multiplier that it still sort of has. Anyway, the optimal time to kill for the plasma pistol is 103 frames, which isn't exactly quick. But speaking of that headshot multiplier, it either kills in 10 shots to the head or 17 to the body. Yeah, that kind of headshot multiplier. The kind of headshot multiplier that says you're either landing headshots or this thing is basically useless outside of the noob combo. The charge shot still insta-breaks shields, but that aside, the plasma pistol is a projectile weapon with no tracking. So even though it's a projectile that's faster than the Pulse Carbine, you're still going to have a rough time landing those 10 to 17 shots, especially without overheating your gun and losing your 1v1 because of it. The Plasma Pistol has a not-so-great TTK, and somehow both does too much damage to feel like the Plasma Pistol, and yet not enough to actually be solo viable. It also can't EMP anymore, but it does still give you the noob combo, which means that you can one-tap someone either with a melee or a precision weapon. So, on the merit of that utility pretty much alone, upper C tier. The pointy pink mist dispenser itself, the Needler. A realistic time to kill of 96 frames with travel time at the appropriate ranges, which also means that theoretically it has an optimal time to kill of just 57 frames, which puts it into the sub 1 second club if you land all of your needles at point blank range, which, I mean, good luck, but it's theoretically possible. The Needler fires homing shards of crystal that stab into a human target and stay there for a period of time, which allows you to stack up to 8 of them in a single target. Once 8 needles are present in a target at once, it causes a super combine explosion that insta-kills. Well, I should rephrase that. 2 things should be noted, actually. 1, it does not do anything to vehicles, and 2, the super combine does not literally insta-kill. It just does an insane amount of damage, meaning that you're gonna have to super combine an overshielded target twice to kill. Hey, so upon reviewing the footage, I actually want to make a correction to a mistake. Unlike other Halo games, where the Needler takes only 7 or 8 needles to kill, it appears that the Halo Infinite one actually takes 13 needles to kill. And I noticed this because upon looking back at the footage that I just played, I actually do shoot one of the standing targets with 10 needles, and he doesn't explode. So it seems that it actually takes 13 to kill, which actually means that you get 2 kills per clip with this Needler. The Needler has a good TDK and is brain dead easy to use. If you catch someone out in the open and they don't have a way to beat you out in frame data outright, it's pretty much just a free kill. But it also does literally nothing to vehicles, and there is a fairly easy counterplay in terms of either hugging the just corners, walls, or even using a drop shield. Still though, with how easy it is to get a free kill with this thing, upper B tier. The Brute Chimera of the Halo Reach Focus Rifle, the Halo 4 and 5 Beam Rifle, the Stalker Rifle. It's got a respectable time to kill of 56 frames and kills in 3 shots to the head or 4 shots to the body. It's a precision weapon, so it one-bangs unshielded heads again, but oddly enough, it also seems to one-shot unshielded bodies as well. Maybe that depends on the health from the first 2, but The Stalker is also very reliably accurate without the scope, which means that it actually gives itself a situational edge against The Stalker is also very reliable without the scope, meaning that it actually has a situational edge over the sniper rifle, although it does still get the sniper glint indicative of a sniper class weapon. Despite being a sniper class weapon though, it doesn't do much damage to vehicles, even when exploiting weaknesses, but it does do a decent job of breaking parts. The Stalker Rifle has a good time to kill, but it's a little difficult to use. With that said, it's also super accurate, regardless of zoom level. So the moment that you get decent with this thing, the fact that it 3 taps to the head or 4 taps to the body makes you just a menace. It's another high skill floor, high skill ceiling weapon, but I think it completely outweighs the Commando by an order of magnitude. A tier. The Energy Sword. We'll get back to that. This thing is busted. It's pretty unapologetically the best weapon in the game, and I'm just gonna make that its own video. I'll put that one out soon, so just be on the lookout for that. But all you need to know for right now is that it's an anti-infantry melee weapon, and it's basically just a free handheld killing spree. Onward to the banished weapons. The two-handed lightning bolt, the shock rifle. It has an optimal time to kill of, they were just struck by lightning to the face, what did you expect? And a suboptimal time of an unfortunate 130 frames if you have to land all of your shots to the body. Meaning that if you can't land a headshot, this thing has one of the slowest TTKs in the entire game, being over 2 full seconds. However, snapshot gods and 360 no-scopers rejoice. This is your new sniper rifle of choice. See that dot in the middle of the reticle? That's where your shot goes. It's crazy, I know, but like, you put someone's head on aim in the middle of your reticle and they're already dead, regardless of your zoom level. It does also have some unique properties. First, it doesn't do the insane level of shield damage that plasma does, but it does now EMP any vehicle in 2 shots. Second, the shot will get stuck and linger in the target for a time. In human targets, that'll start chaining lightning to other human targets within a radius for moderate damage, meaning you can actually kill groups just by shooting one person, theoretically if they don't die. In vehicles, it lingers so that you have more time but to land the second shot after you've primed them with the first. The EMP does not chain between vehicles, even if both have been primed and they're right next to each other. And third, it's a sniper class weapon, but it's also the only one with a blue sniper glint. This might actually confuse your enemies briefly if they don't know what they're doing and their team colors are still set to the default red and blue. Given that the game just released not super long ago, it actually happens more than you'd think. The shock rifle insta-bangs to the head, and even though it's fairly hard to use against human targets if you can't land your headshots, the fact that it's a hit scan EMP means that this gun just invalidates vehicles entirely. I've seen so many clips of just... Imagine using a Scorpion in Halo Infinite. Imagine using a Banshee in Halo Infinite. The Wasp in Halo Infinite. Also, given the fact that it's accurate regardless of zoom level means that, provided that you're a good sniper, this is just a strictly better sniper rifle than the S7. A tier. The usurper of the EMP pistol throne, the Disruptor. An optimal time to kill of... it depends on perspective. So, this gun does the same thing the shock rifle does in that your shots will actually stick into a target and linger there for a period of time. However, the Disruptor shots actually apply a stacking damage over time effect, meaning that you can fire 6 shots into a target, which is just enough to break the shield with their last shot, and then just leave them alone because they're already dead. Going off of this, it takes 95 frames to land those 6 shots, and a total of 240 for them to actually die from the ticking damage you just left them with. Alternatively, though, it's 8 shots to just straight up honest kill someone. So, 125 frames instead. But the point is, you can get into a fight and stop shooting one target after 6 rounds and then put the remaining 4 into someone else. It should also be noted that, like I said, the dot stacks. It's not set per bullet, meaning that you can't just shoot someone without their shield and expect them to die in a couple of seconds. It's the combination of all of those rounds ticking off at the same time that actually kills them. Also, as mentioned, the Disruptor EMPs vehicles, but it takes 8 of your 10 rounds in the magazine to do so, and those shots operate the same way as the dot. There has to be 8 concurrent shots in the vehicle at once to EMP. Lastly, after landing 3 shots on a human target, it'll start chaining lightning into nearby enemies for a small amount of damage, but not as much as the shock rifle. The Disruptor has an okay TTK to a bad TTK, depending on the use case. It's a little difficult to hit sometimes too, but the lingering damage does mean that it also takes longer for enemy shields to recharge, meaning that you can go chase them down and then finish them off. Or they're just assist food for your team, which is also good. Also, an EMP is an EMP. I'd say that it's the best sidearm weapon. It's not good enough to use on its own, but it's a very solid support gun. Top of C tier. The Brute Revolver and the descendant of the Halo 3 Mauler, the Mangler. It's got a realistic time to kill of 110 frames because of travel time, or an optimal time to kill of 92 point blank. It kills in 3 shots to the head or body, doesn't matter, but it does do precision headshot damage, interestingly enough. Oddly enough, though, even though it's an obvious successor to the Mauler, it feels more like a spiritual successor to, like, the Halo 4 bolt shot. Don't click off, hear me out, please. It fires a single round per trigger pull, which can do precision headshot damage, and it can insta-kill someone at close range. By which I mean, despite the fact that it's a 3-shot kill, 1 shot for the Mangler actually still deals just enough damage to one-tap melee someone. So, you can do this. Also, it's one of the only non-hit scan bullet weapons. I guess because it fires more of a slug than a bullet. It also has bullet travel time and bullet drop, which is a trait that it only shares between itself and Skewer. The Mangler has a pretty bad TTK in a vacuum, but it shines in terms of its utility, surprisingly. It precision one-bangs to the head without shields, and out of all of the weapons to do the melee combo with, the shotguns, the pulse carbine, the sniper, I think it's actually the best. Because the others are quirky. Either you have to land a certain amount of a spread, or you have to land something that's inconsistent or hard to hit. With this, it's just 1 shot and a punch to the face. B tier. Next on the chopping block, we've got the Ravager. What, you expected a tagline? Okay, well, it's got an optimal time to kill of eventually, in the same way that I will eventually burn a hole through my desk with the friction of my mouse. A Ravager user might also find it to be useful strategies to have their opponents either die of old age or possibly the heat death of the universe, whichever happens first. Fine. It's despite being a burst fire explosive weapon, it doesn't kill vehicles or people quickly. Optimal time to kill is 115 frames, which is 8 rounds or 3 shots minus a round. They die from the second to last explosive in the third volley. It kills a Warthog in 24 rounds or 8 full shots, or 7 full charge blasts with the Warthog sitting in the damage field it leaves on the ground the whole time without moving. It does also have the unique trait that I just mentioned. That's honestly the only usable thing about it, that it can create and leave an area of denial AoE field on the ground where it lands. But also, I felt it important to mention that it actually just dinks off walls and doesn't explode until it hits the ground. But the most important thing to note about the Ravager is that you literally can't hit anything with it. Its tracking is such that it overcorrects downward and throws itself between the legs of the target if you aim at the head or center mass. But if you aim too high, then it's just going to go clear over. Meaning that there is an invisible sleet spot window just above their head where the blast will hit because it's neither too high nor too low, just barely. And no, this does not get better if your target is moving. Direct impacting a human target with a charge shot also doesn't kill either. I'm done talking about it, and it's going straight into the "why are you even" here. The Railway Spike Laser, the Skewer. It's got an optimal time to kill of, when did I get pinned to this wall? I wish you could actually pin people to walls, but you get the idea. And a suboptimal time to kill of, never. No, seriously, this thing either kills or it doesn't. It's a universal one-shot on human targets regardless of where you land the hit. It's technically a sniper class weapon though, given that it has 2 zoom modes and a sniper glint. It's also very effective on vehicles, two-shotting the Warthog just like the Spanker, but unlike the Spanker, it's also a guaranteed one-shot on weaker vehicles like the Mongoose or the Ghost if you hit a weak spot. It should be noted though that it's fairly hard to land hits with, and it has the single slowest reload in the game at 194 frames. And you're going to be reloading a lot because it's a single-shot weapon. Meaning that every time you fire it, you've got 3 full seconds and change to wait, consider your life, and then try to not lose your 1v1 that you're probably already dead in. If I had to guess, this is because it fills the sandbox role of the Spartan Laser, so instead of having a huge charge time, it just has a huge reload time afterwards. The Skewer insta-kills human targets regardless of whether you headshot or not, and it's an uber vehicle killer. I have died so many times in a Ghost, Mongoose, Banshee, or Wasp to a just single stray railway spike in the sky. But it is pretty hard to hit with, and it is the slowest reload speed in the entire game, which means that if you fire it and you don't hit your shot and then don't have somewhere to hide immediately, you're pretty screwed, because either you're going to be killed during your reload animation, or you're not going to have time to start reloading before you're engaged and you just down a weapon. Still, I'm going to say that it's top of B tier. Lastly, the rocket sledge itself, the Gravity Hammer. It has an optimal time to kill of 36 frames, followed by the shower of blood and giblets that 343 is too cowardly, by which I mean probably too conscious of the age rating and target audience, to give us. PC modders, please give us M-rated Halo back, please? The Grav Hammer has changed drastically from other Halo games, by which I mean it behaves in a logical way rather than just being an exclusively better energy sword. It's a giant rocket hammer that bends gravity in a ranged explosion when it strikes down, and as such it's got a big wind-up before that powerful swing, hence the 36 frames. Which also means you can't use it as a reactionary melee weapon anymore, that's just out. That being said, that impact can send enemies and objects flying and even hurt them from shotgun range, but you're going to need to be just outside of melee range or closer if you want an insta-kill. Directly separating it from the energy sword, though, is its own role in the sandbox now. An anti-vehicle melee weapon. It's the only weapon that is a guaranteed insta-kill on anything that isn't a heavy vehicle, provided that you nail it point blank in melee range. The Grav Hammer has the same TTK as the Bulldog, so theoretically they're going to trade in the same range, and it also is going to outright beat the Heatwave. But it also doesn't work like any other Gravity Hammer. It can't be used in a reactionary way like a melee weapon normally could to punish people for running up on you like you used to be able to do. It's a setup weapon now. You have to be ready. But given how most of the smaller maps are actually still full of corners to hold, the gravity hammer tends to shine anyway. It just demos any vehicle that it touches. It really does tend to be just one of those things you want to pick up if you find on the ground. So, solid A tier. For the Forerunner weapons, of which there's only 3 at the moment, we start with the mid-range ricocheting shotgun because someone thought that was a good idea, the Heatwave. Optimal time to kill, 60 frames or 52 without travel time. It kills in just 2 bursts regardless of range, and those shots also penetrate targets and hit enemies behind them. It also doesn't appear that there's any sort of loss of damage from the penetration because 2 shots is still all it takes. It has 2 modes of firing, tight vertical spread and a wide horizontal one. They seem to be suited to infantry combat and vehicle combat respectively, with the first one making it very easy to land a full burst into a single person, and the second making it easy to shoot vehicles or fire into groups. Although it does take a full clip to destroy the Warthog, regardless of spread type. Also, since every bullet in the burst ricochets off of hard surfaces in the environment, you can also just fire this thing into doors and windows in order to pressure or kill enemies that are in enclosed spaces. The Heatwave has a good TTK and is a little bit harder to use than the Bulldog, and I'll admit, should lose to the Bulldog on paper in a 1v1 situation. But it works from a longer range, it overpenetrates targets, and it has the utility of ricocheting all over the place, so I'm going to actually put it just barely in front of the Bulldog in A tier. The Rainbow Laser of Melting, the Sentinel Beam. It has an optimal time to kill of 61 frames, and coincidentally happens to kill in 61 rounds on a human target, or the full 250 on a Warthog, which, first of all, means that, surprisingly, yes, the Sentinel Beam is a vehicle killer. Didn't expect that one. Also, it appears that the Sentinel Beam actually deals damage at a frequency of 60 Hz, so, lore guys, take that one for what you will. The beam also overpenetrates targets, although it does appear to have a slight decrease in damage per target pierced through. That aside, it'll still melt through an entire line of people pretty quickly if you don't take your reticle off target. The Sentinel Beam has a good TTK, but it's really hard to use because it's a tracking weapon. It's a lot easier just to line up your shot for a second and then pull the trigger, but the moment that you have to either predict or accurately track that target over time, it gets much, much harder to do. That said, you almost always want to kill the annoying guy with the Sentinel Beam on the enemy team, and you have to respect that they might just melt you from a decent distance away, and it kills vehicles, so B tier. And last but not least, the hardlight successor of the Plasma Caster, the Cindershot. It has an optimal time to kill of 61 frames, just like the Sentinel Beam, which honestly says more about the Sentinel Beam than the Cindershot, because unlike the Beam, the Cindershot is a power weapon. It kills in 2 shots, either from direct impact or from a close-range explosion, and meanwhile it kills the Warthog in 6 shots, or 5 to just simply doom it and let it explode on its own. It's worth noting 2 more things, though. 1, the shot will always ricochet once if it hits an environment and not some sort of interactable object like a player or vehicle, meaning that if you can't get good at direct impacting, you're gonna have to get good at bank shots. This also does provide the utility, though, that the Heatwave has, meaning that you can just kind of fire into rooms and automatically pressure or kill someone that you don't actually have line of sight on. Second, it has an alternate fire mode where the shot will travel slightly slower and actually track your reticle after firing, meaning that you can potentially guide your shots to target if your aim and timing are right. This also means that you could throw your shot into places where it can't ordinarily be lobbed, like a flush door or window. The Cindershot has the same TTK as the Sentinel Beam, but the difference is you're actually going to be hitting that TTK with the Cindershot with a little bit of practice. Once you get comfortable either direct impacting people or bank shotting people, this thing just disintegrates. It also loads individual shots, so you don't have to wait for a full charge if you whiffed a shot. And the ricochet utility makes the weapon just that much more versatile, not to mention that the explosions pull into themselves and you have the guided function that doesn't completely ruin the gun like the Hydra's does. I'd put it above the Spanker, honestly, if it weren't for the fact that the Spanker is literally just that much easier to use and the Cindershot does actually require some skill. But either way, high A tier. Alright, and there we have our final pre-launch tier list. And also, if you were wondering what the tier list looks like if it's purely based off of optimal TTK frame data, then it looks like this. What are your thoughts? Did things fall where you expected, or do you think they should land somewhere else? Also, are there any weapons that you're hoping to see added in the coming months? I'm personally a fan of the saw from Halo 4, even though I know that's pretty toxic. Let me know in the comments below.